for noon, so I don't even know if it's actually going to be live until noon. It is a couple minutes early. What time is it now? It is 11:59. So a minute early. I see it popping up an ad here. I have another computer next to me so I can see what the heck's going on. So when you guys comment, because I'm going to be in ZBrush and on this computer I only have the screen I'm working on, I basically stream it on another laptop right next to me so I can see your comments. Now, there is a delay. So what I'm talking about is delayed, and then by the time I see it, it's delayed. So if you write to me and ask a question or something, it might take a minute or two for me to even see it. Now let me see here. I'm curious as to if it picked up it right at noon. Yeah. So, all right. So what I said, because I think I started before the thing went live, is that there is a delay in the live stream. So if you write to me and put a message, I am watching on another laptop right next to me. If you guys didn't already hear this. And that's where I'm seeing the chat. So if you write me a question and when I look over, it's going to take, you have whatever I'm talking about that you might reply to. There's a delay there. And then I see it and then I reply and there's another delay. So it might take a minute for me to answer your question. So if you write to me, let me know. I see this. All the Ultra Lumin testing. Okay, so Ultra Lumin testing, the first batch of stuff I did was awesome. I made some flubs on my part, which I think I talked about in the video, and then the guy from Duralumin, oh my gosh, what's his name? Daniel? I'm blanking right now. He wrote to me and said, "Oh, here's what you have to do. If you have that error, here's how you fix it." So it's all the stuff that I had messed up. It's not the fault of the paint. It was my user error. It still looked good, by the way. It still was acceptable, but I could tell I just overdid it a little bit. And he's like, "Here, you can fix this." And he made a little video showing how to fix what I had done wrong, and it goes right back to being beautiful. So since that video, I haven't had a chance to test, but I still have half a bottle left, and I'm definitely buying more of it. It's really, really, really good. So Ultra Lumin might be my new favorite. It is my new favorite of all the metal kind of airbrushy paints. Now, I have yet to do a successful tint coat test, and again, this is my fault. It's not the fault of the paint. I had pretty good tests, but not quite perfect. But again, it's the learning curve, so I think it'll be better on my next go at it. And I'm hoping to do it soon because I actually have an event with C3PO in 2.5 weeks or something, and I want to have my new arms and maybe a new head painted. If I can get the Ultra Lumin to work right, I'm going to try to use an Ultra Lumin painted head with my spray chrome body and see if I can get the colors close enough. If I can, I'll do it. If I have to respray chrome it later, whatever. But I have a new head, new arms for my suit, and I would like to paint them with Ultra Lumin. And there's enough paint in that half bottle that I have left to do a full set of arms and a head, and maybe hands too, just with that one little half bottle. This goes a very long way. It's really good stuff. Anyway, let's go swap over here. I've been working on EV-9D9 in ZBrush, and let me go to my down here at the scene, and we're in ZBrush now. So if you have been to Galaxy's Edge and been to the droid build room where you can put together the little different R2 units or BB-8s or whatever, there's all these droid parts all over that room, just hanging, and a bunch of junk droid bits everywhere. And I made the EV-9D9, the master version of the EV-9D9 that they molded and cast. All the EV-9D9s that are hanging around in there are mine, that from this file here. Now this is, I printed this, cleaned it up, and I gave them the actual physical copies, and they did the molding and casting. And that was in 2018. So since then, I got to go to the Lucasfilm archives with Regal Robot, and they have the other droid. They didn't have EV-9D9 there at the time. It was out on an exhibit. But there's another droid there that has the exact same torso and shoulders and hips, the whole torso section from the hips to the neck essentially is exactly the same as EV-9D9, same castings. And I was able to take measurements off of it. and I realized that my model proportionally was very, very good, but the scale was just a little bit too big. So I've like rescaled everything and corrected it. Now I'm trying to go through and reorganize it. I haven't opened these files since like 2018. So I'm just trying to kind of like orient myself with what was going on at the time. There's some stuff there that at the time, like the shoulders I did in Fusion360, and then I exported into ZBrush for reference, and I lost the file. And when I exported them, I had it on some really low settings, so the shoulders are all faceted. You can see these facets, and I wanted to go back and fix that, and guess what? Couldn't find the file. Saved it somewhere super weird. And since then, I found the file. So I'm going to take some of this back into ZBrush, or back into Fusion360, and fix the Fusion360 files, because I want to make animatronics for this. Because the ones that at Galaxy's Edge were just in a junkyard, so they just had to be, you know, accurate. But I want to make the like the mouth animatronic. I would let the head turn. Maybe the arms can move a little bit. So I'm going to redesign some of the internals of these parts in Fusion, which means that I got to figure out the scale, which I fixed the scale here, but now I got to like do some corrections here and then bring it in Fusion. And I'm going to try to model as much as possible in Fusion, and then use ZBrush for maybe the head, just some of the stuff that is kind of more organic. Like the head is kind of got some weird shapes on it, but I feel like I could do the torso, and definitely, let me see if I got the, I got like the hips started. This is just roughed in. This is not finalized. There's some parts here that are clearly like found items from something else, and I feel like they could be very good candidates for being done in Fusion360. So there's like the inner hip part here. Again, these are just sort of roughed in. It should be pretty freaking cool. But yeah, so anyway, this is what we're looking at right now. And again, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the file. I'm going to get everything sort of organized and then save out a new version. And I think on this one too, I have multiple torsos in here, and I think there's things that were easy to model a certain way, but then the actual orientation of my reference photo was kind of crooked, so I would model it based on the reference photo. Like I think this torso thing here, you see how there's a second torso in here that's angled differently. If I go to this, like this torso is angled weird, and then this torso is straightened out a little bit just on the pivot of the shoulders. I think I did that so that I could model the back, but I think in real life, in person, it slightly angles like this. So I have all these weird reference things that I did, again, in 2018. When is that, 7 years ago? So almost 7 years ago. So I forget why I did certain things. There's stuff in my files, I'll do something like, this is going to be really good reference, and then later I get down, I'm like, oh my god, there's 5 versions of a thing in here. And you know, sometimes I'll make a new part, I'll do like a kind of a major change, and I don't want to ruin the part, so I make a copy of it, and then later it's like, what is this? Which one's right? I don't know. Also, another thing that's a little bit wrong on my file is that on the real one, this, let me turn this off here. Hold on, let's look. On the real part, this line is not perfectly straight. It kind of angles in a weird direction. The torso, it affects the shape of the front of the torso opening just a little bit, and for the life of me I could not figure it out because there were no photos that had that angle where I could see it. But when I saw it in person, I could see that this line is slightly different. So like from profile, I think it's like correct here, and then when I look at it this way, I had to cheat it somehow. So when I made the ones that are at Disney, they look just like this, but the ones that are in the movie, it's just slightly different. Again, no reference to that I could find at the time, but now I have reference of it. So something I got to correct. Anyway, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around this and resave the file, and then I'm going to re-export everything. I got to go into Fusion, and this was my my initial model, which looks really janky, but basically what I did with this is I used this to get scale, and I brought in, at one point there was a photo in here, canvases, is this it? There we go, look at that. Look at that. So at one time I brought it in to get the scale lined up, so I kind of just drew it around here, but you can see the shapes are all definitely wrong. and I brought it in to get the shapes, and then I just brought those shapes into ZBrush and started sculpting them. But that way I knew my landmarks were at least in the correct position. And again, everything here is slightly too big the way I scaled it. So I got to go back and rescale stuff, and I don't know what's going to become my master EV-9D9 file, because this one is, I think it's got the shoulders and the torso kind of laid out, so maybe I'll go with this. And then there's like all these detail pieces under here, and the neck, which I think I did a pretty good job, but it's in a totally different file somewhere. I gotta look for that. You can see I got a million projects in here. It was a pretty long time ago. So here's EV-9D9. This is the one I got open, which I think it's actually open and resaved, so it might be further up. There's stuff from Jedi Temple Challenge. And I am going to do this EV-9D9. I'm going to finish it out, and then I'm going to post the whole thing on my Patreon as I get that thing rolling. So I'll be posting my videos as I work on it here on YouTube, but the files and stuff will be on my Patreon, which is, I don't quite have set up yet, but I do have the account set up, but I don't have it set up for subscribers yet. This is the neck. And also I want to get all these files, the neck file and the all of these pieces I would like to get into the same folder so they're not like all over the place. And this is basically the neck. And I go through a bit of effort to make sure that when I print these things, I don't have to use any support materials if it's an FDM print. So, motorcycle. So I can avoid having to do like tons of cleanup and whatnot. So I can't remember this one, but it's multiple pieces here that all printed in separate bits. So some of the detail that would be an overhang I printed separately and just clamped it on. Like these guys go around the front here. Oops. Anyway, I gotta figure this out. So probably end up like exporting this as a component set and then bringing it into the other one. And then, then I got the sides, EV-9D9 side vents here. These also have to be exported. So these are the ones that have, this is from my file. This is another thing too, is if you export from ZBrush with a bunch of poly groups, it makes a bunch of different pieces. So yeah, I got to get all this stuff into the same files. Super fun time. And another note, somewhere in here, the back of EV-9D9, which is here, to have it, this whole back is not on the one in Return of the Jedi, but it is on the other droid that has the same torso. And so when I sent the ones to Disney for Galaxy's Edge, it didn't have the back like this. It was, let me see if I can turn this thing off. It kind of looked like just an opening in the back, which is like all the pictures I could find of EV-9D9, that's how it was. So when I was almost done, I was sending them pictures, and they're like, what about the back? And I'm like, it doesn't have a back. And they're like, sent me this other picture from the other droid, and then I ended up making it. So this back matches the black droid that's on that Star Destroyer. It has the same EV-9D9 torso. And I kind of like it. It looks good on there. But I think that they kept the back open for puppeteering sake. I think you could put your hand inside and like work the head mechanism. I don't know for sure. But yeah, so that's that. And again, with the head here, the mouth is, on this one it's one piece, but it's a different poly group, so I can make all these pieces here. Oops. Can I get these? Come on. All these pieces here are the mouth. At the top of the head. So this is the actual jaw. So again, in Fusion, I would like to hinge this so that it can open and close, and then you could have a little, some kind of little cable macker or something that could make it open and stuff, or maybe just directly connect it to a servo somehow. But yeah, anyway, this is the plan. This is very early stages of me planning this out, so I'm sorry if it's a little rambly, but it's how it goes sometimes. Once I get it figured out in my brain, it starts to move a lot quicker. I'm getting messages here. Who is writing me? But yeah, I'm gonna probably have all these arms and stuff that are, oops. Let's share this really quick. In the Fusion file, I have the kind of like front view with the arms and everything. So I feel like I need to figure out the arm piping to make sure that I could just buy the tubes from the hardware store and then make all the joints 3D printable. I think that'd be a good way to go. Let's see here, if we back this out. And this one doesn't have the feet, but that's okay. And I don't know, should I just go in here and then start going at making making the pieces, or do I don't know. Some of these things. It's got its little 3 clawed hands and stuff. And I've seen some models. I went online and looked around, and I saw some models that were okay. They had some of the detail was really good, and then some of it was But yeah, I feel like I could take this and I could scale everything. So I guess I could work in here and start figuring out this piping, all this detail. I got to get the rest of the legs. I think I have another picture that shows the rest, but this will give me a good start, give me some scale reference. And then I got to find my scale reference file, which I did a little while back. It's all of this reorganization just to get this thing lined up correctly. A lot of random stuff over here. Bearings. Let's see. Here's a thing I did for that Star Trek Unification. If you guys want to see that, the on Captain Kirk's outfit, his little zipper pull. This is the little zipper pull that Sam Witwer had on his neck. So when you see Captain Kirk doing his thing on a Star Trek Unification short film by Otoy, this is the zipper pull, which I made for his outfit. Then let's see, Gumball. This is from Masked Singer. When I did the Gumball costume. This is the actual. Now I'm just doing show and tell. I'm getting distracted. Let's see. This is the Gumball machine mechanism, and you can see inside. You could turn this, and it would drop a gumball, which is like 3-inch big, big old gumball thing. It would plop it out into a little catcher here. And that was fancy. But let's see. I don't need to open all this stuff. Sorry, guys. Star Trek, EV-9D9. See 3PO parts, RS7 parts, droid boot, TikTok. Not TikTok like the app. High Republic lightsabers. I made a whole bunch of High Republic lightsabers for Lucasfilm for one of their shows. Not like a Disney Plus show, but like one of the Star Wars online shows for the High Republic. They've made a bunch of display sabers, and I might put those up as well. EV-9D9. I don't know if I scaled this. This is from 2017 is when I did this. Okay, so 2017 is when I did the first EV-9D9 file. When did Galaxy's Edge open? 2018? So I did those in 2017. This is the other Masked Singer one. If you look up Masked Singer Baby Alien, this is all the 3D work for that. It's kind of fun to look at these. I forget all these projects I did. And then Jedi Temple Challenge. I made the different lightsabers. There was a keyed up challenge saber that the kids would have to go collect all the pieces like a puzzle and assemble it. And then there was like the working lightsaber that had it looked exactly the same as the challenge saber for the puzzles, but it used one of those Savi's lightsaber builder cores that they have at Disneyland from Galaxy's Edge. You can go to Galaxy's Edge and build a lightsaber, and the core to that lightsaber was used in those. So there's this. That's kind of crazy. I haven't looked at this in a while. There's the pod. Let me see here. If I go, I'm going to search this so you guys can see it if you haven't seen it. EV-9D9 behind the scenes. I'm trying to find pictures here. Yeah, I've got way too many tabs open. All right, so let's see. So here's the baby alien. There's the little pod ship thing. There it is, and then here's the model for it that I worked off of. And the real whole thing, the shell was built off of a big vacuum 2 hemispheres that we connected together. And then these are the little fins. They're 3D model. They fit perfectly. It was nice. And then this whole base thing was 3D printed, and the vents were 3D printed. And inside, you see all these multiple brackets. There was a like a hiking backpack that had to sit inside, and you can see they're angled because initially they wanted the performer to be offset because the puppet had a puppet in the front, and they thought if he was slightly offset inside, then it would be easier to control the puppet because your hand isn't like at a weird angle coming forward. But they don't tell us who the performer is going to be, so we don't know if this person's right-handed or left-handed. So I had to make multiple sets of brackets. And then they're like, you know what, let's just make it straight on. So now I had to redo the whole bracket system to be just facing forward, like centered up. But that's the setup. This is what it looked like. I think it was on like 1 or 2 episodes. There it is, pretty fun. I'll show you guys the gumball machine too. Just because we're hanging out right now, I'm not going super heavy into ZBrush. Let's see. This is the gumball machine. This guy, Scott Porter, he did awesome. He was a very good singer. But here's that costume. So you can see the gumball machine piece here. It's pretty neat. This is what it looked like all on stage, all done. Really fun build. Really fun build. And again, the gumball machine worked. It was cool. Let's see here. I think a lot of people that come through my Instagram wouldn't know that I make all this stuff. They always see me in these goofy makeups and things. I don't think there's a giant chunk of the people that are on there don't realize I also make things as well. Anyway, yeah, I don't really go this far back in these files, so it's kind of interesting to see all the little pieces here. This TK stand, that was made by Sean Fields, and then I had to modify it for these trophies we did for Vans. Cantina, this is from Disneyland Oga's Cantina. The canisters that were not the IG-88 looking ones, but the other canisters. These are the models for those. C-3PO neck bolt. There's EV-9 neck. I had done a file in here somewhere to get scale reference for this new EV-9D9. Maybe I scaled this last one. I don't even know. This is what happens when you work on something so far out. It makes it so difficult to see. I don't need this. This is junk. Don't save. So now I got to see if I really need to go in my archive photos and see if I can find out if this was the scaled version or not. I do not know. I don't think I scaled this in here. All right, let's take a look. And stuff like this is so easy to model when you just shift the image over a little bit. So I might do these in ZBrush, just block them in, and then bring those pieces in fusion360 and model them properly. That way, it's just faster to block out the shapes. You can see with the legs. So what we're gonna do is gonna go back over here turn on everything. Just too much stuff. Don't need to see all of this. Go to texture, and you go to import texture. This is my EV-9D9 file here. So I grabbed some stuff. You can, with these, what you can do is you can go to texture, you grab your thing, and you go to add to spotlight, and then it puts it in the background like this. So you kind of have some reference. And you can scale this up or down, and you can kind of put it wherever you want. You could put it right behind what you're working on, so you can have it again you can just overlay what you're doing. This is, I think this line drawing is kind of based on that last photo that I was showing before. So anyway, this is like not quite perfect, but okay. So now you hit Z, you can bring up your little toolbar here, and then to hide it, you Shift Z, hides this, opens it, and hides it. So you can hide it and work on your stuff. Now, a thing you got to remember is if you have this on and you want to work on your model, you have to go to Brush. Let's see, samples. Where is that? Is that under here? It might be under Draw. Let me see. No, it's under Brush. Samples. There we go. And you see Spotlight Projection. You have to turn this off. And what that's going to do is, when your spotlight is on, I can give you a reference here just for fun. If you select, like my torso selected, right? And the resolution's kind of low, so it's probably not going to work very well. But if I had this on, spotlight, if I draw on this section here, I don't know if it'll show up, but see how it made the texture from the spotlight? That could be very, very handy, but we don't want that to happen right now. So, and it's on by default, so you got to always turn this off. Spotlight projection, turn that off, and then if you want to model in here, if I draw now and turn off, see it'll just draw into my file without projecting the image back on top of it. So it's a cool feature. Anyway, I'll move this over, and then with the spotlight projection, you can add multiple images. It's kind of nice sometimes just to have them on the screen for reference, and you can come in here and control the opacity, so you can make it lighter or really opaque, whatever you need, just so it's here. This is a thing that I use a lot when I'm doing ZBrush. You can work, get the thing out of the way, and you could crop these down if you want. Another thing too is if you have an image that is like the last one where I was showing that it's angled, and like a part is angled, but it's easier to work on it when it's completely vertical or horizontal, just because of the nature of working with some of the shapes. You can always rotate the image a little bit to get a better angle of what works for you. It's very, very handy. Oh my gosh, got some messages here. Out of curiosity, why do you model in ZBrush then export to Fusion? Is it for getting the more organic shapes or something? Yes, yeah, exactly. And there's multiple reasons why I would go back and forth. For the sake of accuracy, Fusion is very, very, very accurate with the tolerances and so forth. So if I want a thing to be 2 millimeters thick, and I tell Fusion make it 2 millimeters thick, and when I print it, it will be 2 millimeters thick. It'll be correct. ZBrush, it uses just these generic units, so there's no like 2 millimeter thick option for ZBrush, which is kind of annoying. And so with this character in particular, is the torso and the head are pretty organic. When you see the shapes, like I think somebody sculpted a lot of it, and then the neck and all like the hips and the pelvis kind of area and all the arms are clearly like mechanical found parts. They like took something apart and some kind of linkage system and basically like turned it into the arms for this thing. And so stuff like that is really, really good to do in Fusion. And what's great too is I could go find the appropriate size tubing from the hardware store or metal supplier or something, and then just create it accurately in Fusion360. And then any of the greeblies, when I create them, everything will plug in together really, really well, which is really nice. And then some of the stuff, like this torso, again, it's doubled up right now. Let me turn one of them off. The torso here is something that I could probably redo in in Fusion. But the thing is, I'm not really great at doing organic shapes in Fusion. I can make them if I have a base to start with. So if I come in here with the file, I can block into shapes really quickly in ZBrush. It's very easy for me to do that fast, and then bring that into Fusion, and I can create a solid object off of it, and that'll work nice. So I think in the end, the torso will probably be redone in Fusion. Same with the hips and everything. But I'm going to block them in, get the shapes figured out in ZBrush, and then in Fusion I can just copy it basically. I can go right over it, and then I got my reference point. Just sort of speeds it up for me. You don't have to do it that way, but I find it to be easier. I think this whole back piece, I'm pretty sure I did this whole back piece right in Fusion 360, I think. I can't remember if I did this in ZBrush or not. God, it's been like a while since I did this. Let me look. I don't remember. It's been a while. And again, because I bounce back and forth so much, like if you go through these files, you'll see a lot of things that I did. Like the droid I did for Jedi Temple Challenge, as the backpack in here is a good example of something where I did the initial concept sculptures all in ZBrush, and then when I went to Fusion, I just like created, I used it to create the shapes right off of the mesh file, and then I modeled some of the stuff, because that droid had, geez, where is it? Sorry, I'm stammering here. That droid had some parts that just lent themselves very well to be, here we go, Jedi Temple Challenge backpack. This one, the droid was called 83, and it was initially the droid that was going to be on the show for the co-host was going to be the Huang droid from Ahsoka, way before Ahsoka was out. So there's a lot of details that kind of transitioned over, a lot of subtle stuff. So even the droid looks a lot different. There are a lot of things. So this backpack is based on his backpack, but it doesn't have the little limbs on it anymore. But to make it cut out properly so that it would fit, because this backpack held the electronics like when I was on set, I would have audio, so I could talk to Mary Holland, who was doing the voice for the droid. She had a walkie-talkie, so if she wanted me to do something specific, she could talk to me in my ear. Nobody could hear it, and I had to have a walkie-talkie with a wire that ran from this backpack into the suit. So if I go here and show this, let me see. There's the ZBrush torso file. But then this is really mechanical. And I also break these things up so that if I can print with no support material, that is my goal. I'd rather have 10 pieces that all hook together than have like one piece with tons and tons of cleanup. And when you break it up like this, all the little inner corners and all this stuff are really clean. So you can see like this piece is a separate part. These halves are separate pieces. And that way, again, everything prints separately. On flat edges, there's nothing to clean up, and I make everything really thin, so that that's it. There's no support material is needed, and there's no infill. And that way, once it's done, if I add some fiberglass to it, it'll be very strong. And the thing is, if you fiberglass a piece and it has infill, if it gets hot enough, it might not get completely deformed, but the surface can get hot enough, and then inside the infill you get a little bit of air pressure, and it'll cause the heated like plastic on your 3D print to expand or contract, and then it'll expand while it's hot, and then when it cools down it contracts a little bit, and you get these weird patterns. So I don't print any costume parts or prop pieces with infill if I can help it. It's not always, but I try to avoid it. That was a big old tangent, sorry about that. Let's see. Never knew you had a YouTube. Glad to subscribe. Thank you very much. Samad's vlog. Hello. Yeah, so that's just kind of my mindset when I'm making these things, is to make it in pieces like this. You can see, and that's another thing with Fusion 360. It's like, see these two parts here, and it is a different droid, but it's really easy to make my tabs, and everything returns, and all the tolerances are beautiful. So I can come in here, I can make a tab, and then I can back it off like you know, a 1/10 of an inch or something, just a little bit. So when you print it, when it goes together, you don't get weird, funky overlaps and things fit properly. It's really nice. And ZBrush is much harder to do that. It's doable. I've done plenty of things in ZBrush that are broken up that way, but it's just not as easy and not as precise. So, if I can do it in ZBrush, I will do it in ZBrush, but if I can do it in Fusion 360, that's optimal. Let's see here. Any of you guys that I did a video on this a long time ago. I'm getting off track for sure. I did these spray chrome bottles for the multi-chemical spray chrome. I built this sprayer handle, and you could get these bottles from like Sally's Beauty Supply, and then you can put your 2-part chroming stuff in here and spray it. And this all prints, again, no support material. You can print all these pieces individually. The springs from the handles make the trigger return work. It works pretty nice. I did a video of it. I have it somewhere on my channel if you guys are interested in that. Really, really handy little contraption. Easy to make. And doesn't require any tools, like all the pins. You just print the pins and stuff and you push them in, and easy peasy. Oh, look, I'm getting more coming. Thanks for the explanation. I had always understood ZBrush to be good at like softer character type models versus Fusion be better for more precise mathematical. Yeah, absolutely. And you can do both, man. Like my friend Sean Fields does all these really detailed helmets with these complex curves and everything, and he can do them really fast in Fusion. He's very, very good at that. And I can do it. I'm not fast. I fumble around a lot, and so if it's like a choice, like I can make this here. It's the same thing. Like I've kind of been trying to force myself to do more of that kind of work in Fusion, just because it's good to know. But it is so much easier for me to just bang out a shape really fast in ZBrush, and then sometimes that just works right out of ZBrush just fine. But if it needs to be more mechanical, or I need to add mechanical elements, just like I was saying with the EV-9D9 head, it's the head will probably still be a ZBrush sculpt in the end, but I want the interior parts to be done with Fusion, because if I make a cable pull or like a little lever mech that moves the mouth that could be connected to either a hand puppeteer handle or a servo, I want to make sure that it all fits properly and it prints really nice. And it'd be cool if it connects inside the head. If I set the inside of the head up to connect to these components without having to like go in there and hot glue stuff and fiberglass things in weird ways. If they're already part of the print, that'll be really good. I'm getting a bunch of messages. What is happening here? Sorry, I'm getting a million messages. 15 messages just came through. Great. What is this? Sorry, guys. We're doing the band chat because Culture is playing shows in at least a show in Miami in April. So if you're in Florida and you want to come see us play, April 5th, playing with the band Judge. Let's see. Just thanks for the explanation. I do the same so far with import-export. I know AutoCAD, but I'm just learning Fusion, so I find myself sketching in AutoCAD because it's way faster there, and then patching, stitching in Fusion. Do this same. I came from using 3 Studio Max and Maya, and when I started Fusion, the modeling was so different. And the first project I did was, I could have done it in like 15, 20 minutes in 3 Studio Max, 30 minutes tops. It took me like 2.5 days to make the damn thing in Fusion. And I'm glad I did it because I learned a lot about how Fusion works. And now I can model stuff pretty quick in Fusion. But it was just, oh my God, just the the amount of like figuring out the differences was crazy. This is it. I think this is the first thing I did in Fusion 360 right here, back in 2017 is when I did this. And so this isn't difficult, but the problem was getting these shapes cut into the sides here was just like, oh my God. I'm like, how do I do this? And even like these, just figuring out how to create the pieces to do all the insets, it was interesting. And now it's so crazy. I could model this in like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes here in Fusion, but this model took me a long time to do. Let me close all this extra crap. I don't need 50 files open. Don't save. All right, so we're back to EV-9D's neck. I've tried Fusion before. It seems like a mathematician's idea of how to make art. I should try ZBrush. The thing is, like, they're both good for different things. So there are things that I absolutely, if I like use Fusion or SolidWorks, 100%. Like if I'm designing some kind of mech for something, it's just such an easier way to work. And you can get components. So if you got, if you're designing a mechanism and you need servos or motors or gears, you can go to like McMaster Car and find a part that you want. And I'll show you what I mean. So if I go here, I'm just going to do it in this file. If I go to, oops, I don't want to go inspect. I want to go to insert. Computer's going slow. I have too much. I have the live stream running. If I go to, oh, come on. It's really lagging for some reason. I have too much stuff. Let me close some things. I got Tom Servo here. I'm working on Tom Servo now. That's going to be on my Patreon too. United Torso. What do I have open? This and this. Ooh, this is my RX Droid. I'm going to close this. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm going to go back here. We're going to go to Insert. It's really hanging for some reason. McMaster Car component, and now you got McMaster Car. You have all of their crazy hardware. They have models, everything. So if you're designing something mechanical, let's say, what do you think I need? Gears. Let's see, pinion gear. All right, let's look. Go here, and like they have all these crazy gears, right? Internal gear. This is awesome. It's really handy. Look at this. You get internal ID. Pitch, you get your pitch and your ID. You can find all the gears you want. Let's say 200 millimeters, pretty big. And we go to downloadable 3D SolidWorks. I think that step file works. I think there's a couple formats that work with Fusion, but you hit step file, download. Let's go. Let's see if it's going to work. I'm doing my demo here, and boom! Look at that. Now you have a pinion gear, right? Internal gear, right? And it's here, it's in your model. And what's cool is it gives you the McMaster Car component. So if you're gonna order the part, here's the part. You can order the part number, and it's all like labeled and it tells you all the information. So when you're designing something, you can just assume the pieces are gonna be correct. This is a pretty big gear here. This might be something I use for something else actually. Close everything, sorry. But we have this piece, and what's really cool about this is that you could print this. If, like, let's say you get something close and you just want to test it, you can make this part of your model and print it, or you could incorporate it into the model. So, for example, if I had that neck piece here that I was showing before, and I wanted to put this inside of it, this one's obviously too big, but I could find a gear that would fit in here and design it around a motor with a pinion gear that has the same pitch in teeth size in spacing as these teeth here, and I could print this into my file and then buy the appropriate pinion gear for my motor, and it will run, it'll work perfectly. It's really cool. So that's why Fusion's amazing, stuff like that. Again, if you're making something that's less like less organic, it's great. I've done plenty of stuff in here. Like I've got droid legs and things that I've done in Fusion where I use the curves and everything. Because you have like different modeling. You have surface modeling, mesh, solid. We're in solid right now, but surface kind of can take a plane and you can morph it. When you get good at it, you can do really powerful work with them. I'm actually working on a top. This whole live stream just turned into show and tell. I'm making a 3D printed top for my Mazda Miata right now, and this is this is a mesh file of a Mazda Miata, and this is my 3D model top done in Fusion. So this is done with solids. Again, I'm not great at it, so I'm kind of getting this down, and I'm going to be doing some changes, but I figure if I get it done in Fusion, then all of my tabs and all of my brackets that have to be mechanically connected to where these things actually bolt up, I can do properly, and they'll fit perfectly on my part, which would be very, very hard to do in ZBrush, even though it's easier for me to sculpt the top in ZBrush currently. All right, let me see. I missed some stuff. I've also heard Blender is now really good at both mechanical precision of Fusion, but the artistry of ZBrush. But my brain can. So yeah, Blender is awesome, and my version, like the version of ZBrush I'm using right now, is the last version before they changed to subscription, because Maxim bought out ZBrush from Pixelogic. They bought out Pixelogic, I think, completely. And this Pixelogic basically had a perpetual license for ZBrush. So if you bought ZBrush way back in the day, every update you would get for free, which is amazing because it's an expensive program. And so when they do a big update, you get it for free. That's amazing. And then Maxim bought it, and they honored that for like 2 releases, I think. And then they decided they're going to move to a subscription-based program. And if you wanted to like continue with like a standalone license on your own, you had to pay for it again. And I was like, I'm not doing that. So I am on an older version of ZBrush. But if it ever happens where I can't use ZBrush anymore, I will absolutely move over to Blender, because Blender's sculpting tools are now very, very close to ZBrush. They're getting very close. And it is very precise. It's not quite the same kind of modeling as fusion360. It is very precise though. You can do some very, very precise stuff in Blender, but some of this like mechanical engineering side that you can do in like SolidWorks or in fusion360, where you can bring in components, like real life components, and bring them in, and they are, I mean, like fit perfectly. Like if I design a thing and I bring in the model of the servo from the manufacturer and put it in my program, I can model all around it. And when I get that servo and put it in it will fit perfectly. And I love that. In Fusion, you could do that, but you'll have to model more stuff. It still works really good though. I'm sorry, Fusion, I'm saying Blender. But Blender's amazing. I started using it like, I don't know, 2 years ago, on and off for some stuff. I got some like light VFX work where I had to do background placements, and I was working with this guy that I worked with back in like 2008, 2010, and I was using 3 Studio Max at the time. And when he approached me, I hadn't talked to him in a long time. He called me up. He's like, "Hey, you want to do one of these projects?" And back in the day when I was doing it in 3 Studio Max, the place I worked for had the license. So when I would log on to 3 Studio Max, it would just log on because I was hooked up to the work system and I could use it. But when I left that job, I didn't have 3D Studio Max anymore, and the license is so expensive. So when I what is that noise? I think somebody's boiling something. So I was like, well, I guess I have to use Blender. I never used Blender before, but the rendering in Blender is amazing, really, really good, built in for free. The modeling's great. The sculpting is great. And the fact that you can go from sculpting, like ZBrush style, like actual sculpting in Blender, to poly modeling and then go render it in the same program for free is amazing. You can animate in there. It does all these simulations. There is a compositor for doing video. So you can actually do video comp in Blender, like node-based, like Nuke or something. It's awesome. And it's just such a crazy thing. Okay. Chat definitely helps work get done. This is true. It is helpful to have all this stuff open here though, because I have opened a bunch of things. I really have to just sort of figure out where they're going to go. But me figuring out how to organize stuff is boring. I think it'll be more interesting once I get it more figured out, and then I actually get into the modeling side of it again. I think it's going to be more of an interesting live stream, which I'll probably have to do that again, like in a little bit. Let me see, what time is it? I'll probably do another like 15-20 minutes on here, and then I'll actually go do some work, and I'll come back like either tonight or tomorrow and actually be doing real modeling work, just so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'll stop. I'm getting myself distracted just looking through all the stuff here. Hey, everyone is moving to subscription programs. Yeah, I hate subscription programs. I think it's so crap. I'd rather pay a bunch at one time and just own it. And the annoying thing about subscription stuff is like, hey, I haven't used a program in 2 months, and then I go to use it, and then it's like, oh, you're logged out. Now I gotta go log in, and sometimes I can't remember the thing, or like, if it lapses for some reason and you're not thinking about it, like you get a new credit card and now your numbers changed and you go to log on and like, oh, your subscription is like on hold. Now you can't do your work right away. You got to do all this nonsense. That's very, very annoying. Makes me nuts. Yeah, it all started when Adobe did it. And Adobe are like huge bastards. The way that they have, like, they make it nearly impossible to leave their subscription without, like, they have like penalties and all of this stuff. It's just such a pain. And it leaches all this money. I've been trying to get out of Adobe products. I think the only one we still use is Photoshop. I used to, have the whole suite, like After Effects and Premiere and all that stuff. And I moved to DaVinci Resolve for video editing, and for some of the After Effects kind of stuff. But I haven't even had to do much effects work in a while, so it doesn't matter. But if Adobe was like, hey, you want to use After Effects for a month, pay $15 or whatever, and you can use it for a month, I would be okay with that if it just stopped at the end of the month, or you could just pause it. But they make it a huge thing to cancel a subscription. Jason Decker, hi Gordon, hello. So yeah, it's just like the subscription stuff is just a nightmare. I cannot stand it. And Fusion, they also have a subscription thing too, and you pay for it by the year. It's kind of a pain. I'm using I use the non-commercial version currently. I very rarely have anything that I do with this. Most of the time it ends up being done through another software in the end. Like, I might start something here, but then it ends up, the finishing stuff is done through something else. But yeah, okay, so let's see here. What am I doing? Let's get back to work. Let's get back to work, guys. All right, so got my trusty pen here, and I got to figure this out. Again, these shoulders, I did a scale reference here. It's rescale, so EV-9D9 rescale. So if I can find that file, I do not know if I did that in here. Let me open this back up. Oops. So I don't know if I did the rescale in this program or not. I might have rescaled this already, and I cannot remember. This was the initial, these are kind of like the things I used to punch out the shapes. And I just made these shapes here and then export them into ZBrush. I had something to work with. Let's see. And like all of these little guys, I could draw a line down the middle and then do a revolve, make the pieces, but it's so much easier to work on them when they're just vertical and you can just use cylinders and stuff. A little easier to break it up. A lot of little detail here. I think this one's pretty close. Yeah, it's a pain. And this is my brain too, because there's too many parts going on. It gets like some confusion. His head is all doubled up. Let's see. Original, turn that one off. Don't need that. Oh, dang. Oh, right. What'd I do? Turn off that extra mouth. Oh yeah, there we go. What is this? All right. I'm lucky going back to college, so I get free student access for all AutoCAD Fusion products. Yeah, that is awesome. It's funny. I haven't talked to anybody that's used AutoCAD in a long time. When I used to do architectural renderings for years, and a lot of the architects would send us AutoCAD files, and then they switched to, oh God, what was it? Not SketchUp. There's another program by Autodesk, Revit, I think, and it was cool. But once they started switching to that, like when I started doing architecture stuff, they would just send us the blueprints from AutoCAD, and we'd bring them into 3D Studio Max. And that, back to that whole thing we were talking about Blender, the 3D modeling in Blender and 3D Studio Max are very, very similar. Like they can get very accurate measurements and everything, but it doesn't quite have the same, not quite the same tolerance level as like Fusion360. It's very close, but it's I mean, acceptable, close. It's good, but it's not quite the same as Fusion 360. But once the program, all these architects started using Revit, when they would do the blueprints, it would automatically create a model based on their blueprints if they set it up right, which saved us a lot of time on the artist side because we didn't have to model everything now. And we still have to fix a lot of stuff, but it was, you know, like 70% done. We go in and adjust things or fix the model so that it would render properly. But it was a lot, it saved us a lot of time. And it was cool because architects could, you know, if they just did their normal blueprints, they would end up with a 3D model. And I guess AutoCAD could kind of do that at some point. Oh yeah, this was the problem. I think if any of you was here before, let me see if I can adjust this. What am I looking at? Boop, boop. Where is that? This one? Yeah. So I have all these things to punch out the shapes here, and they're sort of weirdly placed. Like I think when I was working on this, there are things that are not quite in the optimal location from where they should be. Like the punch out here. Let me see something. Oh, look at that. Is this connected? It is. What did I do that for? Yeah, I think that I connected everything so I could rescale it, knowing that I was going to redo it. But see all of these polygons here? The, oops. Let's see if I can grab this. Come on. There it goes. Oops. So here's my neck tube. Got this top piece. Oh yeah, there's like a top collar piece that would fit up inside. There's a lot of pieces to this. So when I would print it, it was kind of crazy. Let me see. There should be the little lobes on the side of the head should be around here somewhere. What did I do with them? Oh yeah, solo mode. Golly. This is the old one. What I need to do is make a folder and put old stuff. So I still have it because it's like digital hoarding here. And anything that was like reference, move down into that folder, which is off, so I don't have to look at this stupid stuff anymore. Down here, add this to the folder. And then I got this mouth here. Move that to the folder. All these pieces. And some of these, like this guy here, see how I changed the angle? This is, I think, the correct angle for that torso. For the cut that goes into the neck. That's why I did that. Okay. Yeah, I gotta figure this out. So if you were here early in my stream, I was saying how these are the files that I made for Galaxy's Edge. I'm sorry if it's repeat. And when I was modeling this groove, I could see in the front view that it looked centered with this hole. Like if you're looking at it from the front, I could see that the hole came around and that groove looked centered. But it was also centered on the side. However, it did not line up like that. So I couldn't quite figure out why it looked like that until I saw one of these real torsos from the film screen used in person. Then I realized the angle was almost like there's like a seam, and that like if this line would represent the seam, then this would be on, this part of the groove would be on one side, and then it would cross over and be on the other side. Let me see if that piece I just hit is correct like that. Oh my gosh, sorry guys. So yeah, so that kind of crosses the line. Let me hide this other torso here. This torso, oh my gosh, now I gotta figure out which one's right. I'm just gonna put this in the file. If I mess it up, I can always fix it, but I gotta, let me get moving here and not stare at this thing too much longer. Okay, so like this, this piece could go in the junk folder. Yeah, organizing all these pieces is a big old pain. A lot of these are just, what I'll do is take measurements and bring them into Fusion 360 and make a reference shape. It could just be a block or a cylinder that I know is exactly the height or exactly the width or whatever, and then export it and bring it into ZBrush. So then when I'm sculpting something organic, as long as I hit the points, I know I'm pretty close to the correct size. And I go back and forth a lot, especially if I'm doing a replica thing where the real thing exists and I know measurements. If I'm making something for myself, I don't typically do that all that much. But unless it has to fit, like if I'm, going to plug some like organic shaped, I don't know, zombie head or an alien or something, and the bottom needs to have a hole that fits on a specific piece of PVC pipe, I'll model that pipe in fusion360, bring that file into ZBrush and use it to punch the hole in ZBrush, and it'll be accurate. Another thing too is when people export from ZBrush, they always go to this like export settings with all these. Don't do that. It always is wrong and screws up everything. And then your scale is like a little weird. I exported all these pieces and they don't fit together. And it's because they use that option. It never works right. Don't ever use it. Like export for printing. It's just the worst. But yeah, back to Blender. Blender's really, 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 really good. I highly recommend it. So if you've never used ZBrush and you want to get into doing digital sculpting, I would just say get Blender, or if you have an iPad, the program Nomad is really good. I haven't used it, but I know a lot of people that do, and they do a ton of really great work with it. So definitely could use Nomad. Yeah, see this? Okay, so a good way to fix this would be to basically seal off this whole torso, make it one block, like, digital clay, and then just sculpt this back closed and then cut a new hole here. That's like the quickest way for me to do it. There's other ways that are probably faster, but I think that's going to be the way I end up doing this. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this EV-9D9, like I said before, this is the one that if you've been to Galaxy's Edge and in the Droid shop, I built the EV-9D9, the master version of it that they copied for the Droid shop. So the ones in Disneyland are from this exact file. Now, since I made those, again, I'm going to say some of this stuff a few times if there's new people in the chat, but since I made the ones for Disney, I had access to one of the real droids with the same torso, hips, and pelvis kind of section, and I got measurements off of the real parts, and I realized I had to scale mine down just a little bit. So these have been slightly rescaled. What is on screen now has been slightly rescaled, but it is the same files I used to make the ones for Disneyland and for Galaxy's Edge. And as I redo these and fix them and add my own components, I'm going to be putting this as probably one of my first like Patreon kind of builds. So if you've got 3D printers and you want to build an EV-9D9, this will be one of the first things I put up there. This, and then I'm going to do some 3PO parts. I've got a lot of versions on Thingiverse that are free, but I have like updated better ones that'll be part of my Patreon. Just about everything on there will be like that. And then, yeah, that'll be cool. That'll be fun. Holy crap, I didn't know that Gordon, I caught the live late. Thought you were still sculpting this one. Didn't realize it was finished. Well, yes and no. It's kind of finished. As of currently, these are the ones that went into the Disney parks. But I'm going to be redoing just some tiny little things. Like the head is going to get a couple itty bitty adjustments. Like there's something that after I made them, I'm talking like 100 really, really good reference pictures, and I could not see this detail until one specific angle showed it. And then when you see it, you can see it in the other pictures, and I just wasn't able to tell. So there's like a little detail that I'm going to be changing on the head, really subtle. Like nobody would pick it up. If you put them next to each other, probably people wouldn't be able to tell. But I see it, and that makes me crazy. So I'm updating a couple things on the head. I've changed the scale just a little bit. It's like a few percent smaller overall, the whole thing, just a little bit. I'm going to make connectors in the back because the real prop has relays or something in the back from like you'd plug into a car. It's got a bunch of little relay port, like at least 4 of them, like 2 on each side or maybe 4 on each side. So I'm going to get some relays. I'm going to find some that look correct and use those as reference, and I'll put them in so it'll actually have ports so you can put the relays in. I want to add animatronics to the head because the current one has a jaw. The one that went to Disney actually has the separate jaw piece. so you can, the jaw can open and close. But I'm going to actually properly hinge it, and I'm going to put a mech on the back, real subtle, so you can add a servo or hand puppeteer the mouth. That's going to be part of it. It's going to have some mechanics hidden within the torso here, and all that stuff's going to work. And these little side panels are going to fit better. This was a kind of a last minute thing when I did this for Disney. I made them. They look accurate to the real ones, but the way they connect on the inside, they're just sort of stuck in there, and then I like puttied them up or something. I can't remember. I think I had to give it to them in separate pieces, if I remember correctly, because of the way they're going to mold it. There's some reason I did it the way I did it. And the shoulders, as I was mentioning earlier in the stream, I started the build in Fusion360 like this so that I could get the initial shapes and bring them into ZBrush. But if you see this, like the angles, the thing is really silly looking. I just blocked in blobs of shape so I had something to work with. But the shoulders are really good, accurate. But when I exported the shoulders initially, I had it on some really low quality setting, and I didn't realize it till later. And I went to re-export the shoulders from Fusion, and I lost the file. And basically Fusion had saved it to some weird place for, I don't know why. And I found it like 2 years later. I found this random folder from Fusion. I was like, what is this? And I opened it, and there was my EV-9D9 beginning file that had the good shoulders. So I'm going to be redoing the shoulders in Fusion again with they'll be easier to print, a little bit better design for printing, and better. They won't be faceted. See how the facets are here? They're all janky. When I did the real version, I had to clean them all up, and just it was a pain. So the new version will be much easier, and everything will connect to the inside in a way that makes more sense. This one worked fine for what I needed. Has a little, let me see if I turn this off, the torso. So he has a little inset here for the parts, and then had a little hole, basically a screw could go in and it could hold everything together. But the new one's going to have, essentially a whole tube that goes through so everything can connect, and then again, you'll be able to puppeteer it from the inside or hook up servos or something. That is the plan. So the version I'm going to be doing is going to be more involved. Jason Decker, I'll see you later. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. I'll be watching the rest of this video tonight. I have to finish cleaning. Oh, yeah, I know that deal. And I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm here in my downstairs dining room with this guy. I don't know if you can see him. Come here, buddy. But I'm in my studio room upstairs that I used to be set up in. I'm redoing the wall behind I have all these droids set up there. It's just on a blank white wall, and I'm going to kind of theme out that wall. So I brought up all of this crazy styrofoam, and I'm going to glue it all up and make some cool shapes and make it look like something interesting, like the back of a workshop, like a droid workshop, and I'm going to paint it so it looks all rusted metal and everything. And I started doing that. I probably actually might live stream that later, because I'm just trying to be on YouTube more often. I've been slacking for the last couple of years, so I'm just going to try to turn my regular projects, anything I can show that's not top secret, I'm going to turn into live stream content, because why not? If I can get stuff done, that is. We got to see. I'm kind of taking too long to do this, but it's okay. It's okay. Again, once I get over the hurdle of figuring out what is going on, it'll be easier. I might actually leave here in a few minutes. Time is it 1:07? Probably hop off here in a minute, and then organize this a little bit better so that when I come back on, I can actually do work, and you guys can see me make something, and I can talk about the process a little bit better, versus me just cleaning house in these files and trying to wrap my brain around what the hell I did 8 years ago or whenever I initially did this. And yeah, I'll get one or two files set back up, so it's much easier to go between Fusion and ZBrush, and should be a good time. Can't wait to check out the studio makeover and see that rusted droid workshop. Yeah, hopefully it'll look cool. I think it'll look cool. What got me inspired to do that is when I was on Skeleton Crew as the RA7 droid. The whole shop, all the crazy detail in there, all this stuff, that was all built out of foam. and it looked awesome. Like it looked cool in person, but like on camera, it just looks like a big metal building and all this stuff. And they use foam to make so much stuff on that show. So there's another scene in episode 2 where the kids get to the spaceport, and there's a scene where there's like they see this like a brothel, and there's like a girl outside, and there's 2 people walk in, and I'm one of the people that walks in there. But that big doorway and all that, the whole thing, it's just giant carved chunk of foam. It's not even like, it's just foam. It's just foam painted. It looks amazing. So it got me inspired. So that should be good. Anyway, I'm gonna log off of here, and I'm gonna go get to work properly, and I'll come back with this later. I've got a couple of the things I'm doing, a set of Protocol Droid shorts. So set of scanned from an original prop C-3PO shorts that I'm going to touch up, so they'll have all the weird asymmetry, same as like Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. It'll look proper, but it'll be 3D printable, and I'm going to be working on those. I'll probably do that on live stream too, ZBrush, and then a couple other projects I'm doing a Tom Servo. I've modeled all the mechanical parts, almost all of the mechanical parts, and now I've got a barrel scanned, his little body and the hands and stuff, and I'm ZBrushing to make them really nice so that they print really nice. So yeah, a bunch of projects, kind of like personal projects, but they'll be on my Patreon, so anybody who wants the files, they'll be good. I got a couple other robots, movie robots, TV robots that I am slowly working on, but EV-9D9 is like 65% done, so I feel like this is a good one to push through to the end and have like a cool starting place for my Patreon page. But anyway, thanks guys for stopping by. Let me swap back over here to cool mode. Look at this guy. Hey buddy, look at this guy. He's got my haircut back here. Oh, and I saved all these spools because I'm gonna make a 3D printed insert, so that like if I take one of these and you pop off a side, you have this like little stand with a tube. And I was like, man, if I just had a piece of PVC in here, it'd be great. But this pipe is a little weird, so I'm just gonna make an adapter that you can print and stick in here, and then you can do a piece of PVC pipe, or like even a piece of like rectangular wood. I could make one that fit that, just because this is like a good cheap helmet stand, great for painting, where I can put it here if it gets messed up. I have tons of these filament spools. So yeah, I'll stop rambling, you guys. Anyway,